season is almost here. It's time for the new Evil Air holiday backdrop. And what better movie to review than Haunt? Let's do this. Am I drinking blood? Haunt stars Katie Stevens, Will Brittain, Damian Maffei, and is directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. What is up, guys? I am super excited for this review just because it's my first review with my new backdrop. Big thank you to my wife. I was at work and I came home and she completely rearranged my backdrop because we had a discussion about wanting to do it for the upcoming October season. You know, I get excited around this time of year, and if you remember a couple years ago, I kind of redecorated that backdrop just for the holiday season. So I figured it's always fun to just make something specifically for a certain month of the year. But I'm going to be crying come November 1st because I'm not going to want to tear down this backdrop. It does look gorgeous. And you can't see everything around me because I got all these skeletons up here. There are skeletons literally crawling off of Darth Vader onto the back of the backdrop. So much going on, a lot of cool detail in there, and I'm really excited for it. Really proud of my wife. She did a great job on this. So for that, be sure to pick up her book, Roller Skate Skinny, on Amazon right now. Been getting so much great feedback on that book, and anytime I get a chance to support her, I want to do it. And you know what? It's a great product. It's a great book. I've read it myself, so definitely check it out. I think if there could ever be a female Michael Myers, the main character of her book, Delilah, could fall into that category. You know, if they did like maybe a sequel to Roller Skate Skinny. We were actually throwing that idea around, which could be fun. But anyway, we're here to review a brand new 2019 movie, Haunt. This is one that I had heard of through Damian Maffei because me and Damian are friends, and we became friends out of his work on Strangers Prey at Night. I was kind of introduced to him through Dylan. The late Dylan Clancy, who passed away. You know, Dylan brought so many great things into my life, and one of them was Damian. And he asked Damian, hey, come over to Killer Flicks, check out our group. And most of the times when celebrities come over to our group, they're there for a second, they say hi, and then they leave. And I can't blame them. Damian, still to this day, is an active member of Killer Flicks. He loves horror movies that much. And it's cool for us, too, because he keeps us posted on what new projects he's got coming up. But I remember a couple months ago, he talked about this movie, Haunt. I think he showed us like a production photo or something like that. But it looked really interesting, and I couldn't wait to review it, just because I had watched Hellfest around the same time, and I was pretty disappointed by that movie. I think there was a lot of potential there, but it just didn't deliver. So I knew going into this movie that this was that type of movie where you have this, like, you know, theme park, haunted house type vibe, kind of like Halloween Horror Nights. We all love those. Well, this one is stripped down quite a bit. If you remember in Hellfest, you could tell that they had a lot of extras in that movie. It was a lot more open. And so there was a lot of different places in the park. This is one of those isolated environment in one building. And we've all seen these, you know, I guess you could say it's a lower budget type of haunted house. And that's not a bad thing. Usually those haunted houses are the ones that are the scariest because they're unpredictable. Well, that's kind of what this movie is about. You have this group of young people. It's set around Halloween. The beginning of the movie, it's kind of funny because somebody throws a pumpkin at one of the characters' door. But eventually they go to this party, and then our main character, Harper, she meets this guy, Nathan. And they veer away because the party's getting boring, and they end up going to this haunted house. Now, I don't want you to get confused and think haunted house is like, you know, Crimson Peak haunted house. No, this is theme park haunted house, where you pay money, you go into said haunted house, and they try to scare you. They can't touch you, but they scare you. That type of haunted house. Would it be weird if I put like Monster inside my cup of blood here? I'm not gonna do that. Now, I gotta say right away, once they get to that haunted house, it grabs my attention because there's this character in this clown get up. And this was a pretty damn creepy character. They're wanting to gain admission into the house, and so he gives them this key. And once they get into the haunted house, it looks kind of low rent, you know. There's nothing too crazy going on, but they do hear some screaming. And so they give it a chance. So one thing that really grabbed my attention was there's this witch type of character. And the witch brings in this body bag, opens the body bag. There is this live person there, and he uses a hot steak and burns her cheek. And of course, our main characters, they think that this is fake. What's great is that ends up coming around about midway through the movie, and we see the scene again, but then the main characters know that it's real. So it makes for a really interesting scene, actually. But this does have a lot of those cheap scares, not for the movie, but for the actual haunted house. When we go to these haunted houses, there's a lot of these cheap scares there. You know, one of them is like there's these 3 holes, and you got to stick your hand in there. And so when the characters stick their hand in there, you're just waiting for something bad to happen. You're thinking somebody's going to like cut their arm off or something like that, or they're going to grab something really gross. You know, there's all kinds of stuff like that in this, but there is a point in this movie, like at the after the first act, where it gets oh shit time in a heartbeat. And one thing I love about this movie is once they really like turn the horror dial up, it never lets up. And the villains in this movie, I think, are well thought out. They are very dangerous, they're very scary, and they work very well. And it harkened back to what Rob Zombie was trying to do in 31. I hated that movie, by the way, because of the villains. I honestly didn't mind Jeff Daniel Phillips and Sherry Moon Zombie in the movie. But the villains were just so over the top, and I just didn't buy any of it at all. You know, I've said this a million times, Rob Zombie just has a major writing problem. This is the movie that Rob Zombie should have made. These villains are really damn scary. You don't have to headbutt your audience to scare them. You know, sometimes you can just do it subtly, and that's what they do with these characters. There's this one character, the ghost, his name is Mitch, and this was refreshing. You know, it's weird when like one of the Carnival acts literally just like walks up to one of the characters and, you know, starts trying to help them, or at least they think he's trying to help them. And so there is this one irresistible scene where, you know, it's just him and the rest of them. So, you know, they're like outnumbering him, but he has the upper hand. And I won't go into any spoilers, but, you know, there's one part where they tell him to take off his mask, and that's kind of like a recurring theme throughout the movie. But they sell it just so damn well. They really do. To the point where you're almost scared for them to take off the mask. Now, there is this character named the Devil. And this is where Damian Maffei comes into play. And Damian, you did a damn good job in this movie. And I'm not just saying that because you're my friend. The devil in this movie is by far the most memorable. I think has the best scenes in the movie. And I like this character because he is a big question mark. But visually, he is really striking. Now, if you remember my Hellfest review, one of the problems I had with that movie was the violence was really watered down, very cliche, and just unimaginative. For this movie, it's very violent. They give you the money shot, and I'll give you 3 words: blunt force trauma. There's a lot of that in this movie, and it's very effective. There were quite a few times, you horror fans know what I'm talking about, where you're watching a horror movie and then you go, ooh. There's quite a few moments in this movie where I did that. Now, our main character, Harper, this is a really good character, actually. She is the main focus. I won't tell you if she's the final girl or not, but I will say she's the one that they really dig into her backstory quite a bit. You know, she had this troubled upbringing because she had an abusive father. And so there is this like ring that her mother passes down to her that plays into the story. But I loved this type of character because she starts off as kind of this shrinking violet, and then there's a point in this movie where she really has to, for lack of a better term, man up or woman up, and boy does she. And it surprised me. There were quite a few times in this movie where I was like, hell yeah, I'm rooting for her. She's kicking ass. And we don't always get that in horror movies. So that was a really nice surprise. You know, she was a very convincing character. And more importantly, one that I was really rooting for. Now, as far as any cons, yeah, this is a low-budget horror movie, but it is living proof that you can have a low budget and still put forth a great product, and a very scary product. And Scott Beck and Brian Woods, who actually had a hand in writing A Quiet Place, they wrote a really good script, a really convincing script, and it was, there was no fat on it. It was really stripped down. But overall, guys, I'm definitely giving this movie a purchase worthy. This was a damn good time, actually. It's a shame that it didn't go to theaters, but it is on VOD, so I watched it on Vudu, so definitely go to Vudu, check it out. You will not be disappointed. I loved it. I thought it was great. And it's probably the best, like, Carnival horror movie that I've seen since the Funhouse. So, post in the comments your thoughts on Haunt. Looking forward to hearing them. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.